Sholem Aleichem. Good morning, everybody. Wow, I am impressed. You are intrepid souls indeed. I hope everybody's got their life jackets and their, and you're all great swimmers, but no, seriously, good morning and welcome to the last day of Yidstock. And, I'm Susan Bronson. I've probably met you all at this point, but I'm the executive director here at the Yiddish Book Center. And honestly, it's a pleasure today because I get to introduce two of my very, very favorite people. Lisa Newman, I hired shortly after I joined the center almost 13 years ago. And we go way back because we actually sort of grew up in the same apartment building in New York City, which was a weird coincidence. Lisa is the director of public programs and publishing here at the Yiddish Book Center. And many of you already likely know Lisa because she is the host of the Shmooze and the host of all of our virtual public programs. And so she's become quite a celebrity for the Yiddish Book Center here. But she also directs White Goat Press, which is our publishing imprint and is really behind also an editor of Pock and Traeger. So she's behind a lot of things here. And currently she's project directing our new exhibition and is taking a few minutes off from her round the clock work to be here today to host the Shmooze. Eleanor is one of the dearest friends of the Yiddish Book Center. We really consider her part of our Yiddish Book Center family. Eleanor is at Yidstock as a musician in residence this year. She is a Tony Award nominated director, a Broadway and television actress, a prize-winning playwright, and former artistic director of the Folksbiene Yiddish Theater. She's sung in every major venue in New York City and in festivals around the world. She is a storyteller in English and Yiddish, and is often the voice for Yiddish Book Center programs, including one of our episodic radio casts, Who is Guilty, which you should listen to if you have not. Her memoir, The Letters Project, A Daughter's Journey, is a fabulous tale and is available in our bookstore. And if you have not read it, please do buy it. So Eleanor is just part of our family. We're so thrilled always to have her here. And I now welcome Lisa and Eleanor to the stage here for the Shmooze.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you, Susan, for introducing the two of us. We go way back now. And Eleanor, for coming out on a rainy day.
I had nowhere else to go.
So, Eleanor, over the years, we've spoken about a lot of different projects of yours on the Shmooze, on public programs, on phone calls, et cetera, and passing in the halls. And I thought it would be really nice today to have a chance to speak a little bit more broadly about your work and how it relates to what's happening in Yiddish, et cetera. So we never have a problem having a very fluid conversation. So we'll see where this meanders. Yeah.
So good morning, and thanks for coming today. It's really broad.
I'll ask you the first question.
Good.
Okay, all right, we'll get started. I'm going to ask you, for those in the audience who aren't as familiar, to just share a little bit about your roots in Yiddish, your upbringing, and sort of how you started in the career that you have.
I'll do it quick. My family came to America in 1949, and I was born a couple of years or many years, depending on who's answering the question, many years later. And so Yiddish was really my first language, but it was more like Yinglish, really, like mach auf de Winde, open the window, instead of the Fenster. That was how they spoke. And consequently, I don't read well. My Yiddish reading is very slow and poor, and I don't have I'm not going to be alive long enough to really perfect it. So unfortunately, I have to read everything transliterated. So that's a sort of sidebar. But I started acting in English, and that was what I decided to try to do. And then there was an ad in a newspaper called Backstage where you try to find jobs. And there was an ad for Rebecca the Rabbi's Daughter at Town Hall, and this was in 1978 or so, when I was 5. And and it was the smallest role in the play, and I auditioned for it and got it, and that was one of the things that absolutely changed my life. So my Yiddish started improving hand over fist from listening to the other Yiddish actors who were all older than me and all stars of the world of Yiddish. And I'll say some of their names: Razel Bozic, Shifra Lera, Leon Liebgold. And I, as a young girl in a really small part, would watch from the balcony or backstage when I wasn't on, which was most of the time. And the lead at that time was a woman named Mary Surianu, a Romanian Bren. I mean, she had Alamilis, all charms and characteristics and singing and acting, and she was faic. She was like Molly Picon, although some people don't know anymore who Molly Picon is, which is pretty bizarre. But so life goes, really, right? And Mary was playing, she must have been in her 30s, and she was playing a 16-year-old virgin in this play, which was a town hall, 1,000 seats. We did 7 shows a week, and we did it for a couple of months. So it was a different world in the late 70s. There were theater parties that used to come, busloads of Yidden, of Jews from upstate, from Long Island, from all these places coming to hear the show. And we were supposed to go on tour. This is more than you want to know, and the day of the tour, Mary's, the producer calls, and so she was also pregnant, the 16-year-old virgin. And there was trouble the day we were due to leave for the Schubert in Philadelphia, not a JCC, not that there's anything wrong with that, but we were going to play the Schubert, and then we were going to LA, and then we were going to Chicago. It was a couple of months on the road. And she had a problem, and the day we were leaving for Philly, he called and said, "We're canceling." Click. I called back and I said, "I think I could do it if you want." Click. He called back, "Okay, come to the theater, bring your luggage, and we're gonna go." And on the van ride down to Philly, the cast worked with me in the back, and we worked through. We were kind of the same size, and then it began a kind of life for me. It put me a little dot on the map of Yiddish and gave me a kind of confidence and a beginning. And so singing and all that, it's a long way around. But to me, Yiddish was a sidebar. It was like, I didn't tell people about it as though I was a pole dancer, and my, Yiddish to me was something that, and if you don't know what a pole dancer is, it's really okay. If you don't know what it is, you shouldn't know what it is. But I held it, and I went to when we were at Town Hall, I went to try to get an agent, and I said, "Listen, come see me at Town Hall. I'm doing this Yiddish play." And they said, "Don't tell anybody you do Yiddish, because they're going to box you in, and you're never going to do anything else." And so from that point on, I really didn't. I held it as a secret, but and they do box you in, but they box you in. People like to box you in. Have I answered that question at all? And that was in '78.
You have, and it prompts another question, not on my little question cheat sheet, which is, I'd love to hear what your reaction was. I mean, you answer a casting call. It thrusts you into this world. You had at home, how did your parents relate? It feels as though that was an interesting transition.
My father was kind of dead. So he didn't really have anything to say about it. But my mother was pleased, and in fact, she corrected the Yiddish text the 4 lines that I was given at that time. But look, I mean, she wanted me to be a teacher or a secretary or a lawyer or anything. She had lived through a very insecure, threatened time, and she wanted me to be stable. And she understood that being in the theater or whatever I was doing was not stable, and also that I did not have the talent required to make anything of myself. And it's not like she loved me, but nowhere did she have any possible notion that I could do, that I had any skills or contacts worthy of a stable life in the theater.
Would it be safe to say you were kind of the next generation of Yiddish actors?
The next generation
in terms of, yeah.
So like Mary, who was in her 30s and playing a 16-year-old, and Shifra Lara in that particular play, I don't know if you know who she is, but she was an Argentinian, also a bren, a fire. She was hot and talented and funny, and sie hat geredet Yiddish mit einem Spanischen Akzent. But in this play, everybody, all the women who weren't mothers were virgins. So she was like a 60-year-old virgin old maid. And part of the whole story, her comic thing, was that she was looking for a husband. So Mary, who was Romanian, was the next. She was older than me and younger than them, but there weren't many others in her age group. So it went from those who were 60 and 70 in the 70s, to Mary, who was 30, to me, who at that time was 20 or something like that. So there was a gap, and I guess it's the Holocaust gap. The gap that never made it here or anywhere. And so I guess I was the next generation, yeah. But the great part for me was that I knew both sides, that I knew those people. So whoever is coming up now kind of missed that group. And they get the sort of me who's now, their age. Whoever would have thunk it.
So my first introduction to you was at Yidstock about 12 years ago, and I knew you as a singer. And since then, you've gone on to do a number of different things, as your introduction explains. I wonder if you could speak a little bit about how that all evolved for you.
My mother, I used to play guitar in high school. I would try to, folk stuff, Bob Dylan and things like that. And I'd be in the other room and my mother say, "Was pischitze? Why are you shrieking?" or whatever, what are you krächzen, crying? And I really didn't think I could sing. So it took a lot of years for me. So after the Mary Surianu understudy situation, the Workman's Circle, now the Workers' Circle, but then the Workman's Circle used to do concerts in the park, and they got wind of me a little bit, and I was asked to do a couple of tunes with Zalman Mlotek, who improved my Yiddish a great deal, deserves credit for being strict with me. And I would tell jokes because I didn't really think I could sing. And it took 15 minutes ago or something that I realized I could sing, which is unfortunate that it took so long, because it was years and years of insecurity and enormous fear, which I still have, but so does everybody else. It worked with English, like the directing part. I'd been directed in English plays plays in English and in Yiddish plays. And this promoter, Mo Septi, called me one day and he said, we want to do a review, and Zalman and Moshe Rosenfeld are writing it, and we want you to be in it. And I said, who else is in it? What do you have so far? He said, well, we have the cast. I thought, okay, who? Bruce Adler, Bob Abelson, Mina Byrne, and another empty slot for another woman. And I said, well, who's directing? And they said, we don't have a director yet. And I said, who's choreographing? And they said, we don't have a choreographer yet, but we have a title. We have a booking and we have a title. It would be called Those Were the Days. And I said to him, well, if you let me direct it and choreograph it, I'll agree to be in it. And that, some kind of chutzpah, I hadn't really directed before. And he said, okay, and that was that. And then it moved to Broadway. And then I was nominated for a Tony as a director. So, how does that happen? And, as I told a group yesterday, I journal, and I've journaled most of my adult life. And when my father died in 1976, I wrote like a speech to the coffin. In the 90s, I wrote it. And then that became a play, The Last Survivor. And I mean, Yiddish and telling stories about those people seemed to be what I did and continue to do. And then the book, The Letters Project, is an enormous thing for me, kind of the culmination of everything I've ever done, all in 280 pages. And as a result of the book, so the book was published last year, so there's now this wake or trail of stuff that's happened since the book. And I mean, I almost wasn't going to be able to come to Yidstock this year because I got this job kind of because of the book in a German mini-series where I'm going to speak German and Yiddish, and I'll be in Berlin for the next 3.5 months. And that's a bit of a shockorama. I leave on Tuesday. And a quick anecdotal thing, I did this TV show this year. Not being a brunette, I think has helped my career, not my life so much, but my career. And so I played this, there's a show called Walking Dead, and they have a spin-off called Dead City. And it's on now, and I shot an episode in September, and my character is a Jewish tribe person named Esther, also known as the Pigeon Lady. And on the first day of shooting at 6 a.m., we had to get tested for COVID, and I'm walking to my trailer, everybody's masked, and somebody behind me says, "Are you Eleanor Reissa?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Listen, I'm doing a scene with you today, and I didn't know who you were, so I looked you up. I just read your book." A young man of color, a handsome young, and I thought, what? And so I'll just tell you, I'm killed in the first episode, so that's sort of that. It was a lot of fun, but never mind. And this guy, this young man, comes to me when I'm dying and hugs me and holds me and is weeping. And he tells me later that in my backpack, my character's backpack, which they find is a Jewish star, a photo, and a cigarette, he says. And when I saw the cigarette, I thought of your father. And it's just all these people who now know my father, which I think was my goal all along, was that they be known, and consequently that I be known. And because no one could have understood, and I myself didn't understand, the life of my life as the daughter of these people, these dinosaurs, these ancient people who lived through a life and time that wasn't like anybody else's. Nobody else had that. So always I felt the need to tell stories about them and their ilk. Did that answer any questions?
As I said at the start, we've had many a good meandering conversation. So picking up on that a little bit, and there's so many things to ask you about that. It's hard to, well, I'll use an example. We had a Steiner Summer Yiddish program student, Michal Yashinsky, who we all know, and had him on the Shmooze and asked him about, what is it you want to do? And he said, the two things in my life are Yiddish and theater. And, good luck, he thought. And hey, it's played out, no pun intended. And I think that you're such an example, if I may, in terms of the possibilities. And I'd love you to speak to that idea.
Don't add to it, because I'm going to forget everything. But exactly, I fled Yiddish. I fled. I headed that away, and Yiddish and the Yiddishists and Yiddish Book Center, who has been such a fiery advocate of me and my work, and my has been so encouraging. So that wave of Yidden was sort of rushing at me, and my work and my life is not what I thought it would be, and not what I hoped it would be. I hoped it would be the career of a tall, blonde woman, which would be a failure. I would be a failure. But as a Jewish Yiddishist, the world has opened up enormously. I mean, it's sort of shocking. I'm shocked about it and delighted about it. And like Michal Yashinsky, my plate is full. And when I was coming up, if you had asked me that question that you asked Michal when I was his age, I would have said, what would mean success to you? I would have said that I would have a life of options, a life of varied options, which was what I thought I wanted. And, it's what I have. Unexpected, really. And, and grateful, still, I mean, I cry easily these days. So,
it's what happens when we don't sleep.
It's what happens when you don't color your hair. But it's shocking. It's shocking things that have happened and who I've become. And even that I'm sitting here and talking to you about myself and Yiddish and art is such, wer bin ich? Who am I? How over the years, just going, career, it was never meant to be a career. There were no careers. It was meant to be a job. You got a job, and then you got another job, and will you ever get another job? And then you get, and so it has been to this point where I'm now of that age of sort of the top of the little iceberg, and I'm aware of that too. I'm aware of mortality, and I'm aware of, so I kind of want to do everything and be everywhere, and I don't want to waste my time. And yeah.
I think the possibilities and allowing yourself to roll into options is something that was a generational thing coming out of the 60s, but that you were open to all of this, and look what resulted.
Sorry, I'm just going to say, so I learned about, in this book that I wrote, I learned about one thing my father says about how he wasn't killed in Auschwitz, how he was able to stay alive. And he says that whenever they asked for volunteers, he said, "I'll do it." And that has been, without knowing that until last year or the year before, that has been kind of how I have, can you do this? Yes, I can do that. Anybody want to do it? I'll do it. I'll do it. And I didn't know that even, but I find that is that genetic? Is that a genetic quality? I didn't know my father well enough to know he did that, nor that was helpful. But that's how it kind of went. Yeah, I can direct. Yeah, I can choreograph. Yeah, I'll, yeah. So anyway,
It is a great thing. 12 years ago, I wouldn't have imagined being able to sit on the stage and
yes,
think about Yiddish.
yes,
I mean, it's become
yes.
something that in my home
And look
here,
at
it's immersive.
and the Yiddish Book Center itself. I mean, picking up, what's a Yiddish book? I don't know. Nobody reads this. I'll just throw it away. And somebody, Aaron Lansky and his gang, thought, no, let's go in a station wagon and pick it up and we'll stash it somewhere. And then it's 10 books and 10,000 books and 10 million books. And then it's digitized. I mean, it just takes 40 years, but you don't know what picking up one book will do.
In that same vein, and you and I think, have had this conversation, during the pandemic, we had the opportunity to work together a lot on a number of different projects. And I think that, one of the results of the pandemic was it created opportunities to recreate that Yiddish community for you performers, for musicians. And I remember we did Yidstock virtually. And I would confess that when Susan said, let's do it that way, I thought, oh, this is really tricky. How do you thread together 12 individual recordings by 12 musicians around the globe? They're doing them on their cell phone. They're doing them under duress. And how does it work? And yet, I just remember being leveled by those performances. They were so personal and they worked so well together. And again, I think the virtual programs, everything that all of you and us are doing has broadened that collaboration, has broadened the reach in terms of geography. And I love to hear your thoughts about that.
Well, I mean, all of a sudden, there's there's an international Yiddish community again. I mean, there hasn't been an international Yiddish community since 1939. And now there is one. I did a talk all in Yiddish with this guy he used to write a newsletter called Debay, and official Bimco is, I think, his name. It might not be, so forgive me if it's not. And they invited me to, so they now have a Zoom. They have a all in Yiddish Zoom every Tuesday at some hour, and to talk about the book, and all in Yiddish. And there were 80 people on the Zoom from Argentina and South Africa and Australia and Canada and even New Jersey, and it was the most fun. I mean, it was terrific. So I think, except for illness, COVID has been very, very good to the Yiddish community, and performing in that little phone, playing guitar for myself, having to do everything, the light, the press go, oops, how many takes, what you didn't know on that Yiddish thing is every artist did 20 takes of the tune at home because they messed up a chord, because they messed up a word, because the dog started barking, the horn started honking, and they started again. And so and now that we're back, I'll just speak to that for a second. I feel since we're live again, I'm grateful that we're still streaming so that people around the world can get a hit of this. But I feel that we as artists are now not complaining anymore. If we ever did, we are grateful. We are happy to see you. We are happy to see each other. You want to sit in on this concert? Yes, I do. You want to join us in this tune? Yes, I do. And it's just like, mir sind da. We are here. And it's fun. I mean, it's so fun. That's all.
It's maybe a strange question, but because you've touched on a lot of aspects of your career, but is there one thing for you that was really pivotal?
The book has been pivotal, and the book has been more than I ever dreamed and less than I hoped. But all encompassing. Everything is in the book. And so, and it continues to reap little nuggets of goodness. And so now when I'm in Germany, I'm there for 90 plus days, and it's 6 episodes, and I'm in every episode, but I'm not in every scene. And so my hope is to try to write a one-woman show of the Letters Project, which is not something I ever really wanted to do, but I really want to keep the book in front. So in order to do that, I think I need to try to move it into another medium. I mean, I'd rather it be a mini-series starring Meryl Streep. I think she'd be really good as Eleanor Reissa. I do. I'd like to see that. Finally, a tall blonde. I mean, but unless that happens, I'm going to try to get it to be a one person. So I'm doing that. So it's just, but and coming here, and I'm always wanting to do our podcasts and the readings, and it's been terrific. I mean, yeah.
You have a wonderful quote, Eleanor, if I may, that was part of an interview for Kvell, which is the Yiddish Book Center's development newsletter. And we interviewed you. And at the end, you say, I mean, what began as a bunch of books in a cardboard box is a world greater than anybody could have imagined. So I'd like to turn the question on you and ask, could you have imagined all of this?
No. Period. I still can't imagine. I'm leaving Tuesday. I'm scared to death. I'm not sure of what. No, I can't. I don't really have a good imagination. I can't imagine. Who can imagine the future? This rain. Who can imagine this rain? Who can imagine, the world that we live in? And if you came up in the 60s and 70s and you thought that you had done work on feminism and racism and stuff like that, and to just see the world reeling backwards down a hole of fascist horror, I mean, who would have imagined that? Who imagines the future? But I think, you have to hold the past in your hand and look at it. When I was in Germany and I went to I didn't go to concentration. I went to the displaced persons camp where my mother and her family were, and I went with Yeva, who was my translator, Yeva Lapsker, and we didn't know what we were going to find, and we found the fortress that was the displaced persons camp, and I brought black and white photos with me to see, where my parents stood in front of this fort. I didn't know it was a fortress, And so I said to Yeva, take a picture of me where my parents were standing. And what she did was she took the picture of my parents, she held it up to the lens, and I would be there. And she captured both me and my parents in front of the displaced persons camp. And that's what this is like. It's combining the past and the present. I don't remember the question, but it seemed relevant. I just can't remember the questions.
Is it what you could have imagined? But
Yes, yes. Well, so there I was. My hope in the trip to Germany was to find my family, my dead family. That was my hope. I didn't know that I would. I didn't imagine that I would be in a picture with my Baba and my Zaida, and I didn't imagine it. And it was outside of my scope of possibility. I just, wanted to see the fortress.
And for a younger generation, I mean, right now we've got the Steiner Summer Yiddish students here. What do you want and what do you see?
I feel enormously hopeful about the youth who are interested and learning and care about history. And so I don't feel like who will carry on the legacy at all. And like being here and being at other festivals, they're generational people. There's the younger and there's the older and there's everybody in between. And it's really exciting, and places like this are exciting, and YIVO and the Folkspina and all these organizations, the museums of Jewish heritage and Holocaust and festivals. There's festivals everywhere now. I mean, it's exciting. People, the artists here are leaving to go to London or to Paris or to South Africa or to Brooklyn. Midwood is here. That's a joke, never mind. You have to be from Brooklyn to know that Midwood is here. But so I'm hopeful, and I'm glad that you have the Steiner program. And like Krista Whitney has these tapes of everybody who was ever alive and is still alive. And you can meet them. You can go back and see people Leonard Nimoy or Shifra Mina Byrne or something like that. And people you don't know. People, unsung Yiddishists, unsung humans. Which strikes me as, we are all unsung.
Thank you. I'm going to open it up to some questions. I think we have time. Adrian, yes? Okay.
Yeah, 5-7 minutes.
Okay. Yes?
Hi, Lisa.
Oh, hello, Ruth. It's the glare of the lights.
You
Speak as loud as you can. Yeah.
You mentioned that you, in the beginning, you spoke up and said, I think I can do it.
Yeah.
And this is really a statement, I guess, but it was your father who.
That's my point, really. It was my father, but the question is really that we can ask ourselves was, how did I know?
Yeah.
How did I know it was my father? And how I think I know. I mean, I have a small theory about it, which is I believe in genes, not Jeans, the other kind. And I believe that, both of my parents suffered and hungered for years, not months. And I believe that trauma is inherited. I'm not a scientist, and so it's all baloney, but that what I'm saying is nothing for you to hang your hat on, but I can't explain anything else. I can't explain it any other way. And I'm so grateful that my path somehow got me here against my wishes, against my efforts. My efforts were contrary to this, but I'm grateful that I got to where I was obviously meant to be. Go no.
Yes?
Tony Awards. I watched the Tony Awards. I live in California, but I watched the Tony Awards because a lot of things that play in New York do come to Los Angeles and San Francisco. Okay, you're nominated for a Tony. Now, when you go there, do you have a feeling in your gut that you're going to win? What's it like?
I'll tell you. It's minimal. It's a kind of story that no one really knows. Yes, sorry. Yes. The question she asked me about the Tony nomination, and it's not a. It was in 1990, and we were doing that play. Those were the days. I was the director, choreographer, and in it. And Bruce Adler, of blessed memory, was also in it. And Bruce Adler was the best. I mean, Bruce Adler was the best. And when we started, I bet him $100 that he would be nominated for a Tony. I bet him that. And that was what that was. On the day the Tony nominations were announced, I was with Avi Hoffman working on something else. We had closed. The show had closed because it was the year of the war in the first war in Iraq against Israel, right? And we didn't last that long on Broadway. So the press agent calls me and he says, Bruce was nominated for a Tony. I said, hot diggity dog, I just made $100. And he said, so were you. And what? In what category? And as director. And I was kind of flabbergasted. And the New York Times had, when they printed who was nominated under the director category, there was a director named Susan Schulman who had directed, Secret Garden. Thank you, brain. Had directed Secret Garden, and the little article said something like, Eleanor Reissa received, it was expected that Susan Schulman was going to get a nomination, and instead Eleanor Reissa got that. And I thought, I don't deserve that. I thought, oh no, I have, so nutty. But the long and short is I knew I wouldn't win. But what I didn't know, but I didn't care. Being nominated, it was out, can you imagine? Can you imagine? No, I couldn't imagine. But then I bought a nice dress and went to the Tonys, and you're sitting on an aisle seat, and there's a camera that when they announce the Tonys is on you. And I thought to myself, oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Everyone I ever loved and hated is going to see me on the Tonys. Vengeance is mine. That was how I felt about that. Big vengeance, big vengeance. So Anthony Quinn does the announcements. He pronounces my name wrong. Fine. Tommy Tune wins. I mean, I don't expect to win for a second, but it is going like this, and the winner is, it's like, what I mean? And then there's a dance, and then there's a dinner and a festival, and I go back to my studio apartment, and my phone machine, it was the days of phone machines, is blinking like crazy, and I think, oh yeah, baby, let's go. Bing, hey, where were you? We didn't see you. Bing, hey, what happened? Where were you? Hey, 53 messages that were all like that. it turned out that Tommy Toon, who was on the road at that time with Bye Bye Birdie, they kept, and you don't know this when you're in the room, they had kept the camera on him the whole time. And none of the other directors who were nominated, I can't tell you how depressed I was for months. It was my moment. Anyway, so that's what it was like. And did it change my career? Absolutely not.
I'm gonna,
Absolutely not. Not like Yiddish has changed my career, but although that was Yiddish and English.
oh,
They
oh,
changed the name of your play because those were the days was a very popular.
We sang the song. We didn't. We paid for the name. We did the song in Yiddish and in English in that show. Yes.
Okay, so that isn't why they changed the name to avoid confusion in the song.
They didn't change the name.
Oh, I thought the name of your play was Those Were the Days and then became The Last Survivor.
The Last Survivor is a play I wrote. Sorry. Those Were the Days was a musical that I did not write, that I only directed, choreographed, and was in.
let's see if we can get to your question before time.
Know the name of this TV show that you're going to be.
The name of
How
the.
can we see it?
Well, I don't know that you can see Dead City. You can see Dead City, episode 2. But the name of the show is, it's called The Zweiflers, it's a German show. It's for German television. And we're shooting it now. I have no idea when it will air in Germany. I do not know if or when it will come here. It means the doubters, Doubters, the doubters. And it's kind of like The Sopranos meets Zabars.
Adrian, do we have time for one more question in the back? Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're here very, very excited. And the fastest growing community of Yiddish speakers in America is not here. There's like a big wedge between us. I'm curious, do you see any bridges with that Hasidic and other community that's growing so large and speaking Yiddish?
I wish the other community that's growing so large and speaking Yiddish was having a lot of children, so that there would be a secular, well, we can just call it a secular Yiddish community. Well, I am that, but I'm going to wait till I'm 80 to have children. So, but yeah. So the secular Yiddish community and the religious. Look, there's a problem, and I'm just going to say there's a problem because of women. I used to love to go to, and still do, but I don't do it anymore, to go to 46th Street Photo, and the men behind, all the Hasidic men behind, and I say, "Wiffel kostet der Kamera? Wiffel darf ich dir gehen?" And they, their eyebrows go up. And I used to love, and I love to speak Yiddish with them, to them. There's a Chabad guy near where I live, and red mit him, I talked to him, I bought shmura matzah from him, but I don't know how you get past that, although like last year we had Yankee Lemmer here, who is a great cantor and sometimes sings with secular people, and sometimes maybe even people of my sex, in dark rooms or somewhere. I mean, sometimes people cross that, but I don't know how. I'm so sorry about it, because to speak Yiddish is really such an enormous pleasure. And it's such a pity that there is this community, and that it's a bit of a conservative politically community is also kind of hard and sort of sad to me, and period.
Eleanor, thank you for everything.
Thank you, Lisa.